So Tamás is in charge of our JChem for Excel product as well as also SharePoint. And this presentation is going to be on our JChem for Excel product and a little bit of what's going on with that and some of the newer improvements.
Okay, so good morning everyone. Welcome to the third, I think, JChem for Excel presentation in the US. And in the past, usually, I was more focused on doing demonstrations and showing interesting new features in JChem for Excel. But this time, I wanted to take a different approach and put a focus a bit more about how actually you can accomplish an evaluation, how we can help with that. And I also wanted to show you a few cases we had with certain customers and what issues they encountered and how we could help them to solve those. Of course, along I go, I will also show you what is new in JChem for Excel, and I will show you a few demonstrations, because actually last time in the European UGM, Chizzy was a bit tired, so he fell asleep in the demonstration. So this time I promised to do a few months. So, what I'm going to talk about, so first of all, just the things to consider when you are evaluating Excel add-ins. So, most of you who are evaluating, you are also using an existing one. So, as far as I know, we haven't had a new Excel add-in user so far. So, probably most of our evaluation cases are migrations from the past Excel add-ins. I'm also looking at the past and present and future of Excel add-ins, so just a bit of history and how we fit there, and what are our vision that what can we achieve in these Excel add-ins in the future, so what additional features and so on. I'm also going to look at the categories and brand names into this area, and as I mentioned, I'm going to give you a brief overview how we can help with the evaluation and show you a few case studies. First of all, you can put the question as why would you want to have chemistry in Excel? We already had a nice overview from Matt about these questions, but I also have my points on this. So first of all, is it better than any custom applications, you might wonder. So for example, basically you can achieve the same functionality if you are building custom applications, and probably if you do that, you can target the specific area better. So it might work better for that specific case. So my answer would be that probably not. And is it the best choice for chemistry applications? It's a bit related to the first point, so probably not really, because if you look at specific applications for reactor, standardizer, and any other tool, they have a very specific user interface targeted for that specific problem. So, and finally, that you might ask that is it so easy to develop or create this tool in Excel, but you must be joking, because it's putting anything under Microsoft Office applications, it's a pretty nightmare, but finally we did it. So, but at the end, why shall you use an Excel add-in then? So possible answers could be that it is there on every desktop, so it has a quite wide user base. Everybody knows how to use it, so there is a pretty short learning curve for putting something into Excel and start using it. It has a familiar user interface, so if you use other Office applications, Word, whatever, it has the same now called ribbon, so users can easily find what they want, hopefully. And Excel is finally standard for spreadsheet applications, so occasionally we have questions that why don't we do it under the Macintosh, or why don't we do it in OpenOffice? But I believe that Microsoft Excel, it's pretty a standard here, and this is what mostly used in corporate environments. And finally, it is also widely used in other areas of research, mostly in biology. So if they like it there, they probably like with chemistry as well. So in this table, I try to collect the different aspects of the two types, basically, of Excel add-ins in the market. I came up with these two names, so these are not official names you can find anywhere. So these two types, that in the first category is the so-called Excel shape-based applications. In these applications, basically, they insert some kind of image or Excel shape or their own custom stuff into Excel applications, and they try to manipulate it in a certain way. So, for example, Accord for Excel and ChemDraw for Excel fits into this area. In the other category, we have the so-called window rendering technologies, which is quite a hack inside Excel, so it's not officially supported, but it was first introduced by ISIS and then iCentris for Excel, and now we also fit into this category. So basically what we do there, we don't insert any special stuff into Excel, but we rather try to draw in its surface the structures. I also collected a few of the points how they differ. So first could be that the structure, whether the structure is visible without the add-in. So where the first category, they insert images. So for example, if you pass around the workbook to a colleague or someone else who doesn't have this add-in installed, these structures are visible as structures. Whereas with the other category, unfortunately, it is not unless you do a conversion or you convert to these structures to specific images, and then after this conversion, you can send this over. The second category is printing. Basically, it is related to the first, because if you have these image types, you can simply print the sheet as it is, and the structures will be visible. But in the second case, basically, we need to do some special operation before you click to print preview. So basically, we insert images again, and after the printing, we remove them. So basically, I think this was the two where the window rendering add-ins come short, but they perform pretty well in the rest of the categories. And these are, for example, whether the structures resize well with cells. With Excel shape-based, they somehow solved it, but it's not as dynamic as with window rendering, so they have to recreate the images all the time and takes time, whereas with our type of add-in, it is really fast because it is almost simultaneous. What is the maximum number of structures? In the first category, it's about 3,000. The reason I know that we also started with the first approach, and basically this was a theoretical limit or practical limit what you could put into Excel. After it will become very slow. With the other type, it's basically no limit because we only render the structures visible in visible range. So basically, and store the structures in the first hidden sheet. So basically, there is practically no limitations of structures you can put in. Next one is the import speed. Since in the first category, then you have to generate these images. It's much slower, and in our case, it's fast because we have to simply just read the structures and put it into the Excel worksheet. Also, the workbook size is much larger for the shape-based add-ins because they also store the images. It is smaller on our case. And finally, this OR approach allows for us to create some advanced functionality, like, for example, the structures-based functions we have for reactor and other types of calculations. Okay, I'm trying to give you a short demonstration just to illustrate the differences between the two. So I'm just going to quickly import SD file. As you can see, it was 500 structures, and it was just like 1.5 seconds, so it was really fast compared to other type of add-in. So if we look at the printing, I'm using Excel 2010 now, which has a different interface for printing. So when I click here at the first site, the structures are not visible. Whereas if you click in the other types of Excel versions, so 2003 and 2007, we can catch this event and you will see the structures right away, or they will be converted to images right away. But what we try to come up with in this Excel 2010, that we put this show ChemAxon structures here, And now what is it doing? It's now converting all these 400 and something structures to images. So basically, it will be also visible for printing. It takes a while, as you can see, but after then it's ready, you can print it out. And if you switch back, it also takes a bit time until it removes all those. If you save this workbook, I'm not going to demonstrate it, but basically the difference between the two types that if you store these structures and images, it gives almost a 10 times increase in workbook size. So basically, if no images are stored, then we can have the same amount of data in almost the 10% of the size compared to the other add-ins. Okay. So my second topic is basically how an evaluation, a JChem for Excel evaluation and migration can go along and how we can help with you in this process. So basically, we are very open to new feature requests, and as I'm going to show you the cases for the 3 companies we worked with, we worked very closely for them. We listened for the issues they found and the requests they have. In addition, we try to release pretty frequently. Normally, it should be every 2 months, so you should expect these fixes and new requests come along in these new releases. And we also try to create a priority between these requests because we also have ideas and requests are coming in, so we have to basically find some kind of algorithm to try to make this priority. And of course, we try to work on those features or issues which are providing the highest value to you. And finally, we solved one migration issue. This is for Excel, for ISIS for Excel workbooks. I'm also going to demonstrate you how that works. Unfortunately, so far we were unable to solve it with the other types of add-ins because most of these Excel add-ins store the structures in very cryptic form, so they are not open. Basically, you cannot really get out the structures for them if the add-in itself is not installed, but we managed to solve it with ISIS for Excel. So it could be also an option because as with other examples, I will show you that JChem for Excel is quite open, so we also have a specification how we store the structures, so you cannot use third-party applications to put data in and get data out from JChem for Excel workbooks. Okay. Sorry. So what you can see here is I tried to open an ISIS for Excel workbook. There is a warning comes up because it won't recognize because I don't have actually ISIS for Excel installed. It won't recognize the functions provided. So what you can see here is some sample ISIS data. And for example, in C2, you can show the ISIS for Excel function definition. So this is how they recognize the structures in ISIS for Excel. Okay. Something happened with my mouse, sorry. Anyway, I will try to do it with this touchpad. We also had a tool in the past for this ISIS for Excel workbook migration, but we started to integrate it in the ISIS or JChem for Excel interface. So it's not fully integrated, but you can basically accomplish the task. Sorry for that, but I'm pretty slow with the touchpad. I try to Ah, now it's working. I replugged it on. Okay, thanks. So here I picked the ISIS for Excel workbook. I also select destination for it, replace it, and I'm going to select now the more format. So basically it's the initial version. Later on we probably will keep the sketch format, so there won't be any change in the data in that case. If everything goes well, it is converted. Basically, here you have the ISIS for Excel workbook converted into JChem for Excel. Of course, we tried it only a few JChem for Excel workbooks, so we would welcome any feedback from you. So if you want to try it out in your workbooks and see if it works in all cases, then we would glad to help you with this. Okay, so let's look at the three case studies quickly. So I believe the most successful one was with JSK. They integrated JChem for Excel with their own add-in, Helium for Excel. So basically, we are doing the background work, so rendering the structures and offering other cheminformatics features. They have approximately 1,200 users, if I'm right, up. 2,000. Anyway, at the time of the European Union, Karen presented this number. So our initial communication that we had monthly meetings during the evaluation. So in these meetings, basically, we looked at the issues and the requests from their side. It's just a few of the samples. So as usual, deployment it also starts with some problems, but finally we managed to sort them out. Other issues were with OLE conversions. It's a bit OLE, it's a bit outside of JChem for Excel, but it makes quite heavy use of it, so it's integrated with other applications. So basically, it is the same when you copy a structure from your favorite editor to Microsoft Office and start to editing there. So basically, here we also had some deployment issues, but managed to come over it. And we also had some interesting requests since they were using so-called VSTO add-in for their own add-in. So we managed to, we had a small issue when collaborating with that, but we managed to solve it by, it's a technical sentence, but it's basically by loading the .NET framework in the background. We also showed samples that how they can use our .NET API within the same process of JChem for Excel, so these DLLs are not loaded again. So I believe you use now the standardizer functionality within that. And basically, they also had some additional requests. I'm not going to demonstrate all, but only a few. So these were basically the ChemDraw integrations, since GSK uses that as a standard tool. We have two modes for that. One is OLE, and the other one is more advanced ActiveX-based. Second one is basically, it's also a problematic area, is that how you can copy structures and data together into Microsoft Office applications into one another. And unfortunately, starting in 2007, Microsoft dropped this feature to copy multiple structures, OLE objects and data together. So what we had to come up with is a custom approach. So what we will do in the forthcoming editions is basically just import the file again. We copy the data in a special XML format to the clipboard, and basically we have a very thin add-in which handles the insertion in all Office applications. So I'm just going to copy a few structures over. At the moment, it's integrated in the right-click menu, but maybe in the future we create a custom button or even try to integrate it with the normal paste. As you can see, it's still under bit development, so the structures are not properly fit in the grid, but of course we can work them out. Here in this option, we created a new type of object. It's called ActiveX object, so it is much faster to insert those than OLE objects, so that was the initial reason, but you can also use, or you can also edit them in the same way as the OLE objects in Microsoft Office, Word, or PowerPoint. So hopefully with this new functionality, we will be able to solve this long problem of how to putting data from Microsoft or JChem for Excel into PowerPoint or Word. They also had some just other sample requests that, for example, we have the filter functionality. It would be nice to copy the filtered results to a new sheet, and when importing, to rename a worksheet to the file name, and we also have those implemented. Our second case study is with Evotech. They recently have also a full deployment of JChem for Excel working. As far as I know, it's for 400 users. Here we had a strange situation because they had a request that they wanted to, for a certain period of time, they wanted to do Excel add-ins work in parallel. And actually, this raised pretty many issues because basically ISIS for Excel is trying to do as we do, so it's a pretty dangerous operations in Excel. But finally, it went pretty okay, so we made some additions, and they were sort of managed to use these two add-ins together. But of course, we made the point that it should be only temporary, and as far as I know, they already stopped using ISIS for Excel. We also had several issues with deployment. They used other method, I believe, a Microsoft System Center, and I believe it's not really appropriate for this case. So Matt, he didn't mention it yesterday, but I asked him, they are using Active Directory group policy deployment. We also tested that, and it's very good, so I could recommend using that for deployment. But finally, they managed to solve also these deployment problems. They also had some custom macros which were causing problems, because usually if you write custom macros in Excel, you might use the sheet numbers and the indexes, and we have our structure stored in the first sheet, so that might cause problems, but we solved it actually by protecting it, so it's not causing problems anymore. And you can also see some additional features we implemented for them. I also wanted to demonstrate a few features or a few improvements we did for the import from file and export area, especially for them. Open up a new workbook. So basically, our pretty basic import from file form is getting a bit complicated now because it has quite many options. So maybe in the future we will separate these functionalities. But now I just want to show you. Oh, sorry. So I selected the second cell because it was also a request to support an option to start the import process from the current cell, so rather only from A1. I select the file again. You can also switch off the header creating. It is quite useful if you, for example, do use our reactor functionality in a matrix display mode in JChem for Excel, or you would like to do or calculate the similarity between structures in the matrix arrangement. So I'm going to show you how you can basically easily accomplish this. Now, it didn't create the header, and basically we started the import from A2. Occasionally my mouse goes away, but I use the same trick. And now, I import the same file, basically, but instead of importing it to rows, it will import it into columns. With everything. Maybe I'm going to borrow your mouse because I close it. So as you can see, basically, I import the file into the column, so it's pretty useful if you want to do this matrix style arrangement. Next, I want to show you that if you have this reactor or products for this reaction evaluated in this arrangement, that it is also possible now to export this, that you don't only export one column, but you can rather export the whole table of structures in a left, right, top, bottom order. Structures, so you have to make a selection first. And then replace it. So select structures on it. You want to export only the selection. It's also a new feature, and you can also pick in what order you would like to export the files. Forgot the location where it exported, but anyway, basically what it did, it exported all these structures in a SD file. Okay, finally, we have the third case study, GNF. So Yingyao is the representative here. So the introduction to this partial migration, that they initially are using Accord for Excel. So as I mentioned in the beginning, it's quite different than ISIS for Excel. So what I feel that JChem for Excel originally fits better for ISIS for Excel users, but of course we also want to improve in the area when you want to migrate from Accord for Excel. So the original issues they had, because Yingyao was the first evaluator, among the first evaluators of JChem for Excel, so he found some problems with the structure sheet, the structure drawing when using JChem for Excel through terminal services, and they also had some printing issues, but at the end we managed to resolve them. He also had some requests like, for example, when you use the API, and you want to insert some structures using your API, now you can turn on and off our drawing so it won't actually flicker the screen. Yingyao also had this request that to put air group decomposition on the same page, so rather than putting it on the target, but if you have the target structures in the same page, now we can do this air group decomposition to additional columns. But the final point I would like to make that now this is only a partial success, and we have several reasons for this. These two, basically, that the users got used to the Accord for Excel working mode. So, for example, when Yingyao mentioned the use case when they want to put the structures in embedded workbook into other applications, it's not suits very well for our type of add-ins. And for example, if you want to share the workbook, then first you have to convert the images and then send it. So basically, you cannot really share the original workbook you want. And apart from it, as I mentioned, this copy issues is also a problem. Of course, the reason I mentioned these problems is that in the future we would like to find a solution for it, and I'm going to talk about it in the future developments section. So just a few words what we did since last year. The first one is pretty technical, but now we move some of our code into C++. It offers us hopefully a bit more stability and speed improvements, since C++ is closer to this Office world than .NET. We have Office 2010 support. We also did some improvement in our import from database. So finally we picked the third-party commercial provider for Oracle, since .NET world is not so strong in its Oracle providers. Now it works with multiple Oracle clients. Without it, it recognizes DNS connections and so on. We also introduced the option to search when you have a JChem cartridge Oracle views. You can also see other users' schema. And I will also show you some additional functionality. We also introduced some simple structure transformation actions, which I can actually quickly show you. We also have this hit color. It's a pretty long name, but what it does basically, then apart from simple hit coloring, it does a similarity between the structures, highlighting the most common substructure. What's the proper term for it between those two? And at the end, we also did many fixes and smaller improvements to the application. Actually, if you recognize that, or if you tried JChem for Excel before that, I don't have the same user interface as you might have, because I also wanted to highlight that the JChem for Excel user interface is customizable. So basically, you can create every kind of variation what you would prefer to put the buttons. And in addition to the functionality you can see on the ribbon, we have several additional ones which are not shown by default. Some of them might be described in the user guide, but I have to admit we have to catch up a bit with that. So describe all these additional functionalities, and you can also find a description actually how to customize a user interface there. At the moment, can only be accomplished in an XML format, but in the future we would like to provide a nice user interface for that. So I just wanted to show you this quick operations. These are basically similar what you can see in Marvin. So you can aromatize and dearomatize a structure. You can add explicit hydrogens, remove the explicit hydrogens. You can perform the 2D cleaning, because originally this is the workbook what I imported from ISIS, so it kept the original drawing layout, but now I done a 2D cleaning, so it's now uses this ChemAxon algorithm to lay out the structure, and you can also do 3D arrangement on it. So these are the features which will come in 5.6, hopefully in a few weeks' time if I get home. These are the first what I showed. It's the quite most important is the advanced copy-paste between Office applications. So we have this new option which manages the table in PowerPoint and in Word for you. We will also have the R group decomposition functions. This was also requested by Evotech, and what you can accomplish with this that instead of having the static R group decomposition, so it will be quite dynamic. So if you change the query structure, it will change on the fly, or if you change one of the target structures, it will also recalculate the decomposition on the fly. Finally, we also try to work heavily on the area that to be able to import into the sheet based on key values. So rather than importing the whole data, we now support two modes for importing. So let's say if you have a list of corporate IDs in the database, now you can basically import an SD or look at an SD file and import only those structures and additional data which match this corresponding corporate ID. And we can also do it from the database. We also had initial proof of concept of relation import, and if I have time at the end, I'm going to show you that from a remote server. Basically, what it does that now with this functionality, it is also possible to import master detail relationships. So, for example, if you have a structure and activity data for it, now we import it into a single sheet where the detailed data goes to rows. But anyway, I will show you at the end. Some other new functionality coming. As I mentioned, the JChem for Excel workbook is pretty open. So basically, you can create it with any third-party applications, even if you don't use the Excel.com interface for that. So you can create it in a binary format. We also created a .NET example for this. And later on, I'm going to show you how that works in SharePoint. So for example, how can you import the JChem for Excel workbook in SharePoint and also export it. And finally, we also did the same in Java. So hopefully, IJC will be able to export the JChem for Excel format pretty soon. But what we already have is a 9-node to create a JChem for Excel workbook. And if everything goes fine, I will try to show that how it works. So what I have here basically is just a simple node arrangement. I'm not an expert KNIME user, but I can start basically this. So in the first one, I selected the SD file. It's in the configuration. Yes, it's the Wombat SDF. And basically, I simply connected to JChem for Excel output, and here you can specify where you want or where you want to create in what name the JChem for Excel workbook. Or of course, later you can complicate it further to do several calculations and so on. But now I'm going to start this, and it was pretty fast. And basically, this is the result of the KNIME output. So, just a few words about the future, what we have in mind. So, first one is basically, although the deployment usually goes very well, we received several support requests in this area. So what we thought about that, we will try to do some kind of self-diagnostic or installation checker for JChem for Excel, which goes through all the possible points it needs to work correctly. For example, whether it has the necessary DLLs, whether it has the registry settings, whether Excel has done something with it, disabled, removed, whatever. So basically, it would provide a nice option for an average user to try to fix JChem for Excel if something went wrong. We try to also provide the same for the OLE functionality. Since this is used also by our Java applications, its configuration and working is quite complicated. So there's a lot of area it can go wrong. But hopefully, if we have this self-diagnostic tool, it will help resolve the problems. The second point we want to improve is performance. Basically, if JChem for Excel loaded, everything goes fine, so I can say it's really fast. The issue we have that if you want to reach the first functionality in JChem for Excel, it might take a bit of a time. The reason for that since we convert our API from Java, the JChem DLL size grew quite a lot in recent versions, and unfortunately we had to put it together, but in the future we will try to optimize it and split it. So basically, hopefully our initial loading time will be much faster. So, okay, I can also see that, thanks. We also try to work on caching the function results because Excel behaves pretty strange. So for example, you do pretty heavy calculations, like you calculate log P for 1,010 structures, and you want to try to sort it. Excel calls basically the function same time again, so it forces recalculations. It's pretty strange behavior, so it will calculate again. So we'll try to work around that. We'll try to cache these results so they won't be recalculated if not needed. Finally, we are also working on, or we work on asynchronous functions. First, probably we will do it with our structures. So for example, if you do a reaction or a 3D cleaning of many structures, it might take a while, and now the Excel interface freezes a bit. So what we like try to do, just we display a calculating message or something, and basically as the results go back, we display it in Excel. So it will be hopefully a much more fluent user experience. And third, basically a so-called hybrid add-in, which would solve the problem of GNF had so far. So when I started my presentation, I tried to put the two different categories of Excel add-ins. And in a historical perspective, we also started off with the first approach, so we also have some old code. And what we try to do in the future is to offer both functionality. So for example, if you prefer and if you work with a smaller number of structures, it might be better to work in other mode where Excel generates images, so copy-paste will be easier, printing will be easier, you will be able to put it into embedded workbooks and so on. So basically, with this so-called hybrid add-in, we could satisfy both of the words. In addition, we thought about a lot that where we should store the structures in JChem for Excel. At the moment, we do a similar approach what others do, that we store it in an Excel workbook itself. But from some companies, they raise the concern that from security point of view, they wouldn't like to have the structures scattered around in various Excel workbooks in the company. So basically, we thought that we could do the same like what IGC does, that we have the structures in a database, and basically we don't actually put them into workbooks. We rather read it or fetch it from the database as the need arises. Of course, we will try to optimize it with the sort of caching. So we are also look at how it would be possible to achieve it. Next one is, it was not requested by others. It was mostly requested within ChemAxon because they had a 64-bit window, Windows 7, and why not they put up the 64-bit Office. And at the moment, JChem for Excel doesn't work with that, but I believe the other add-ins do not work either. But we managed to solve it because it is a technical reason, so hopefully we'll be able to overcome this issue and also work with the 64-bit Office versions. But as far as I know, it's not really a requirement since other extensions do not really support it, so I'm not sure how is it feasible, for example, to migrate to Excel 64-bit and enterprise scale. But maybe it is, so we will prepare for it. And finally, in a longer term, we would like to move to so-called WPF user interface. What it means that in a .NET, you have these all types of Windows forms, which looks all similar in Windows, but with WPF you can create a much more graphically intensive user interface. It also has a better support for layout, so hopefully in the near future we will migrate our forms and wizards into this WPF. And just a few ideas what we might be doing in feature terms in the future. So we had many requests for import from database improvements, so there's still room to improve in this area, and also for import from web services. We also have or make a heavy use of taskpin. I'm also going to show you a quick demo after this. So for example, rather than popping up dialogues, simply put it on the left side, so basically you don't have to leave your workspace when doing a filtering and other operations. We like to also strengthen our relation with instance JChem, for example, first import and export, Later on, we also had the request that it would be nice to read the data tree, IJC data tree in JChem for Excel. I'm not sure how feasible it is, but I will discuss with him. And finally, the SharePoint integration. Okay, do I have time, Doug? No, it's over, but I wanted to show you a demo, or if I don't have, then those who are interested in these new features, you can visit me in the break, and I can show you a few. It depends what I wanted to show. I just wanted to have a look quickly, for example, to this task pane editing. So as you can see, rather than popping up the Marvin, basically we put the editor on the right side, and you can do the editing right here without leaving or without to have to click OK, double click the structure again. This is the initial version, but we would like to also improve plan to have on-the-fly editing. So not only when you change the selection, but for example, if you add the bond or atom, we will update the Excel sheet automatically. It will be pretty useful if you have a calculation or various calculations for a structure, and you can update them on the fly as you change the structure in Marvin. So basically that is I wanted to show. If you're interested in the other forthcoming features, then please come to me and I can show it to them. Thank you.
Thank you. We have time for a few questions.
So you have plenty of integration with the other Office products. At what point do you rebrand this as JChem for Office?
JChem for Office? Well, it's a good idea because we also plan, I'm not sure if you are aware that Microsoft Research created an add-in for Office, it's for Word to basically integrate or put in structures in a different way than OLE. So we plan to do the same with Marvin because that code is open source. And it might be also worthwhile to put additional functionalities maybe in PowerPoint tables or Word. So we started off with this copy-paste, but now basically we accomplish this with these small add-ins, so they are present there. So I think it might be useful to extend them in the future.
I have a question. We get queried occasionally about Apple Macintosh support. Is that on your plans?
Unfortunately, it's not even possible because of technical issues. So the Excel for Macintosh, its extensibility is completely different from the Windows version, and it's quite limited. So I think there you can only use very limited automation and scripts. So basically it's not the same as the Microsoft version. So it won't be impossible to achieve in technical terms, and I'm not even sure that from the sales or financial perspective it would worth the effort. I know one request about this, but I haven't heard about many others. Probably we could do it in OpenOffice, but again, it's not that widely used spreadsheet application.
Great. Any other questions? I'll thank Tamás again.
Thank you.